Well, welcome back. This is the second of 7 videos looking at what are project management process groups, and during this particular video what we're going to do is get into the 10 project management knowledge areas. Last video we talked about the process groups. Now we're going to start working through these, and in fact during this video we'll cover integration, scope, and time as different forms of knowledge areas. Alright, so this idea of integration is going to run through the entire project, alright? From the scoping to the planning to launching to monitoring, integration control to closing. And through this you're going to develop a project overview statement, scope statement, project plan itself, then work it all the way through. So this idea of integration ties into many of the process groups that we talked about previously. If we look at the next of the knowledge areas, that's going to be scope management. And here we get into what are the client wants and needs. And those are going to have to be balanced. And part of the art of being a project manager is managing those client expectations and driving the customer to making the right choices so that you have a successful project. And at the heart of that is this idea of wants and needs associated with a particular project. Also, part of the that mechanism in terms of scope is establishing conditions of satisfaction. So what are going to be the criteria that say, yep, this is a successful project, that we have met all of the requirements at the end of a project. It may be, I want all of my data migrated into this new system, and I want these 147 reports to match historical data reports, but in the new system. All right, so those are examples of conditions of satisfaction. Want it delivered by such and such a date with, at such and such a cost. And this is a cycle. You start with a request, you clarify the request, there is a response back from the project management team, agreement on the response, and we move to the next client request. The results of this are reflected in the project overview statement, and we'll spend some more time on the project overview statement in subsequent chapters and videos. The other thing to note, this works good for smaller projects. It's not going to work well for larger projects in terms of building out all of the conditions of satisfaction. You're going to have to aggregate some of that to a much higher level. And then finally, it may be premature if the project's not approved. So sometimes, and again you'll see this in some subsequent diagrams, sometimes you're not going to go through the work of doing conditions of satisfaction because the likelihood of the project being approved is not there. And this will make sense. We'll get into it. You'll be able to see that kind of trade-off. Alright, one of the other areas here in terms of scope is this idea of generating a requirements breakdown structure, and this is basically taking that overarching project goal and solution and then breaking it down to a series of requirements and then decomposing that into functions, subfunctions, and features. Alright, and again we'll spend a lot of time on this in subsequent chapters, but the idea here is as we're looking at the knowledge areas, understanding what a requirements breakdown structure is and how it fits into a knowledge area is important. And again, we'll spend more time on this in subsequent videos and further into the course. Alright, that brings us to time management, and time management is looking out at the duration and amount of labor it's going to take to complete this particular project. And again, when you start to look at time management, you're going to have to look at the entire duration. You're going to have to look at some of the underlying assumptions, how much time is going to go into completing a particular task, how much of a work day is going to go in on project management and then is going to be pulled off to do other things. So again, there's a little bit of science here, there's a little bit of art here as well in terms of determining project duration, work effort, and again, as we get into the planning chapter, we'll spend more time looking at how we do time management. All right, well, very good. This brings me to the last slide on time management. And what we're doing here is we're looking at 6 different approaches for estimating a task duration. And again, we'll spend more time on this later, but at a broad level, you can look at it and as a project manager go, well, this is similar to other activities and this is my judgment. You can use historical data, expert advice, and then there are kind of 3 calculations. There's a Delphi technique, a 3-point technique, and a wideband Delphi technique. And again, you don't need to have these memorized in terms of exactly how to do them. We'll do that in a subsequent video and later on in the course. But you should be aware that time management is one of these knowledge areas. There are 6 different approaches to doing that time management as it relates to estimating task duration, and you can find them right here on slide 17 of 55 within the presentation on Chapter 3. All right, well, very good. We've done a lot during this video. We've kicked off this idea of knowledge areas that are associated with project management. We looked at integration management, scope management, time management. And what we'll do in the next video is continue to explore the 10 knowledge areas associated with project management. So keep on studying, keep on learning, and I'll see you in the next video.